My parents begged me not to go to Hawaii because the mortgage was behind. So, I transferred them $8,600. A week later, I am Lillian Lily Harper, 28 years old, and I work as a nurse. I had been saving for years to finally take my first real vacation. Hawaii was supposed to be my escape, a place where I could breathe without the constant pressure of 12-hour shifts and hospital alarms. Every extra shift, every night I came home too tired to eat. It was all for that dream of sitting on the beach and feeling like I'd finally done something for myself. But then the call came. My mom was crying so hard I could barely make out her words. She said the mortgage was past due and the bank could take the house. My dad's voice came in the background, low and heavy, saying they were desperate. They begged me not to go on the trip, not to waste the money when their home was on the line. My heart twisted. I tried asking questions. Had they called the bank, asked for help, or tried to refinance? But Mom's answer was the same. It had to be now. She said they had no one else to turn to. I could hear the panic in her voice, and all I could think about was them losing everything while I was lying on some beach sipping cocktails. The guilt made my chest tight. That night, I stared at my bank account. $8,600. Every cent I had put away. Enough for my flights, hotel, food, and extra for fun. I hesitated, hovering over the button, my eyes burning with tears. Then I thought of all the times they had been there when I was little. All the times they said family comes first. Maybe this was my chance to prove I wasn't selfish. So I pressed send. The money was gone in seconds. I texted Mom that I had transferred it, and she replied with a quick, "Thank you, Red Heart." My dad didn't say a word. The next morning, I canceled my vacation. Hearing the airline agent talk about cancellation fees made me want to scream. Watching the hotel reservation vanish felt like losing a piece of myself. But I told myself it was worth it. My parents would be safe, and their home would be saved. Lying in bed that night, I tried to hold on to the thought that I'd done the right thing. My chest ached, but under it was a small sense of pride. I had sacrificed my dream so they could keep theirs. I told myself I'd still make it to Hawaii one day. For now, family had to come first. I truly believed I had rescued them. After sending the money, I waited to hear something from my parents. I thought they would call me right away with news about the mortgage or at least send me a message showing a receipt. But days went by and all I got were short texts like, "We're okay now," or "Don't worry about us." There was no detail, no explanation. I told myself they were just busy or too stressed to share more, but a part of me wanted reassurance. I had given them everything I had. Ethan, my boyfriend, noticed how quiet I was. One evening while we were cooking dinner, he asked if my parents had shown me proof the mortgage was handled. I shook my head and told him no, but I trusted them. He looked at me for a long moment before saying, "Lily, what if they didn't use the money for that?" His words stung. I felt my stomach drop, but I pushed back right away. "They're my parents," I said firmly. "They wouldn't lie about something like this." He didn't argue further, but I could see doubt written all over his face. I tried to ignore the uneasiness, but little things started to bother me. My mom posted pictures on social media. Plates of steak dinners, glasses of wine, desserts on fancy dishes. I stared at them, confused. She hadn't mentioned eating out in months. I told myself those must be old photos she never got around to posting. That had to be it. Still, the timing felt strange. A week later, I stopped by their neighborhood to drop something off for a friend. As I parked, I saw our old neighbor, Mrs. Foster, who had known me since I was a kid. She smiled and asked, "Did you come to help clean up after the party?" I blinked, not sure what she meant. "What party?" I asked. She laughed lightly. "Your parents had a wild one last weekend. Music, cars out front, people coming and going. It was nice to see them celebrating." I froze, my keys still in my hand. "A party?" I hadn't heard a word about it. I managed to smile and nod, but inside my chest felt tight. On the drive home, Ethan kept glancing at me. I finally told him what the neighbor had said, and he gave me that same careful look again. He didn't say, "I told you so," but I could feel the thought in the air between us. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, questions swirling in my head. Why hadn't my parents shared details about the mortgage? Why did they post pictures of dinners out when they claimed to be in trouble? And why hadn't they mentioned the party? I wanted to believe in them. I wanted to trust that my sacrifice had saved them. But for the first time, a small, sharp voice inside me whispered that maybe I had been wrong. I couldn't take the uneasy feeling anymore. My parents hadn't given me a clear answer, and the neighbor's words about a party kept echoing in my head. So one Saturday morning, without telling anyone, I got in my car and drove to their house. The whole way there, I tried to calm myself. Maybe they would have paperwork ready to show me. Maybe the party was just a small family gathering. Maybe I was worrying for nothing. I wanted to believe that. When I pulled up, the first thing I noticed was the front yard. Sitting on the porch was a full set of brand new patio furniture. Shiny cushions, glass table, even an umbrella. I knew what their old chairs looked like. They had been rusty and worn for years. Seeing the new setup made my chest tighten. I walked up to the door and knocked. My mom answered, smiling like everything was perfectly normal. She hugged me and invited me inside. As I stepped in, the smell hit me first. Expensive groceries, the kind of meals I could never afford on my nurse's salary. On the kitchen counter sat bags from high-end stores, bottles of wine, and boxes of imported snacks. I stood there frozen, taking it all in. In the living room, there were balloons half deflated, confetti stuck in the carpet, and empty glasses on the side tables. It was obvious a big gathering had happened recently. My stomach dropped. My dad strolled in, relaxed, holding a can of soda. He greeted me like everything was fine and said, "Oh, Lily, don't look so serious. We just needed a little help getting back on our feet." His tone was casual, as if $8,600 was nothing more than pocket change. I couldn't stop myself. I asked straight out, "Did you even pay the mortgage?" My voice shook, but I needed to hear the truth. My mom waved her hand and laughed, like I was a child overreacting. "Don't be dramatic, Lily. It was only money. You'll make it back. You always do." Her words stung more than a slap. I stared at her, waiting for her to take it back, to say she was joking, but she just kept smiling. That was the moment everything inside me broke. I looked at the new furniture, the expensive groceries, the clear signs of their party. It all lined up. They hadn't used a single dollar for the mortgage. My sacrifice, my dream, all those years of saving, it had been thrown away for their fun. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, like something precious had been ripped out. I thought about the nights I stayed late at the hospital, the mornings I dragged myself out of bed just to earn enough to make that Hawaii trip real. And they had taken it without a second thought. As I stood there in their living room, I realized the truth. My parents hadn't needed saving. They had played me. And for the first time in my life, I felt the bitter weight of betrayal from the very people I trusted most. My chest was burning, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. The words spilled out before I even realized how loud I was speaking. "Where's the money?" I asked, my voice shaking. My parents froze for a second, then exchanged a quick look, like they'd been caught. My dad sighed and leaned back in his chair as if this whole thing was tiring for him. "Lily, calm down," he said. "We used it. We wanted to celebrate our anniversary, get some things we needed. It wasn't a big deal." I felt my throat tighten. "Not a big deal?" I repeated. My savings, my dream vacation, everything I worked for, they had blown it in days. My mom stood with her arms crossed, her face almost amused. "You act like it was your last penny," she said. "We've given you so much your whole life. Do you really think one vacation is more important than everything we did for you? You owed us this." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I tried to remind myself I was the child in this relationship, not their provider. But the way they said it made me question myself. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I was overreacting. For a second, doubt crawled into my mind, and I hated myself for letting it. I pushed back anyway. "You told me you were about to lose the house. You begged me not to go to Hawaii. You lied to me." My voice cracked, but I stood my ground. My dad rolled his eyes and muttered, "Family comes first. We needed you, and you came through. That's what matters." My mom nodded, her tone sharper now. "Stop acting like a victim. Don't be selfish, Lily. We're your parents. We deserve your help." The room felt smaller and smaller as their words pressed down on me. They weren't sorry. They weren't even pretending to be. They thought they had the right to take from me, like my hard work belonged to them. All those years of sacrifices, late-night shifts, exhaustion. They didn't see me as a daughter, only as a resource. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to let them see me cry. I grabbed my bag, my hands shaking, and headed for the door. My mom called after me, her voice annoyed, not worried. "Don't storm out. You'll regret this attitude later." But I didn't look back. The weight of betrayal sat heavy in my chest, heavier than anything I'd ever felt before. I stepped outside, slammed the door behind me, and let the cold air hit my face. The house I once called home felt like a stranger's place now. All I knew was that something inside me had shattered, and nothing between us would ever be the same again. When I finally made it back to my apartment, Ethan was waiting for me. The moment he saw my face, he pulled me into his arms. I didn't even have to explain. The anger and sadness poured out of me in pieces, my words breaking between sobs. He listened quietly until I finished, then he took a deep breath. "Lily," he said gently, "they've been manipulating you your whole life. This isn't the first time, is it?" His words made me pause. At first, I wanted to deny it, but my mind started going back through the years. I remembered being in college and sending half my paycheck home because my parents claimed they couldn't cover the power bill. I remembered skipping outings with friends because they told me Derek needed school supplies and I was the only one responsible enough to get them. There were weekends when I wanted to rest, but they dropped Derek off at my dorm so I could babysit while they went out. At the time, I thought it was normal. I thought that's just what families did. But looking at it now, I saw the pattern. Every time they wanted something, they used guilt to pull me in. Later that week, I sat down with Derek. He was older now, finishing high school, but I could tell he was tired in a way that went beyond schoolwork. We talked for a while before he leaned in and lowered his voice. "Lily," he said, "they didn't pay the mortgage. I heard them talking. Dad said they'll just refinance when it comes up." My heart stopped. I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, but he looked serious. "I didn't want to tell you because I knew it would hurt," he added softly. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. All the hope I'd been holding on to, the tiny part of me that wanted to believe my parents at least used the money for something important, it was gone. Derek's words made it final. They hadn't been desperate. They hadn't been saving their home. They saw me as nothing more than a bank account they could tap into whenever they wanted. I broke down right there in front of him. Tears spilled out, harder than before. Derek sat beside me awkwardly, but he put his hand on mine, and that was enough. My chest ached with the truth I had been avoiding. My parents didn't see me as their daughter. To them, I was just an ATM. And now, for the first time, I didn't know if I could ever forgive them for it. I promised myself I would never let them take from me again. The hurt was still fresh, but it tasted like something I could turn into action. Ethan wanted me to disappear from their lives quietly, to stop answering calls and let them learn the cost of their choices. That idea felt safe, but it didn't feel like justice. I wanted them to understand what they had done, to feel the weight of their own lies. So I started to plan. I told myself it would be clever, not cruel. Nothing illegal, nothing to destroy anyone's life, but enough to make the truth impossible to ignore. I made a list of what I needed: proof, witnesses, and a way to show everything at once so they couldn't wiggle out with excuses. I wanted their friends and family to see the facts, not just my anger. At first I worked late into the night, sorting through old messages and emails I had saved. I dug up bank screenshots, copies of texts where they begged, and the confirmation of the transfer. I printed things out. Seeing the numbers on paper calmed me in a way. It made the betrayal real and solid, and it gave me a plan instead of trembling anger. I also looked for anything else that showed their pattern: calls asking for money, notes about unpaid bills, faded receipts from places they clearly could not afford. I did not fabricate anything. I only collected what already existed, lining each piece up like puzzle parts. Each document tightened the noose around their excuses. I talked with Derek in the quiet of my kitchen. At first he shifted in his seat, unsure what to say. Then he started to speak. He told me things he'd been afraid to admit. Small lies, promises never kept, nights he had been sent to a neighbor because Mom and Dad wanted to go out. His anger was quieter than mine but deeper. When I asked if he would help, he didn't hesitate. He wanted it over as much as I did. Ethan gave me practical help. He scanned documents, backed up files, and kept me grounded when I felt close to burning everything down. He reminded me to stay calm and to focus on the end goal: exposure, not revenge for the sake of pain. That steadiness mattered. We also started to map out who needed to know. Not just family, but cousins, old friends, people who had loaned them money in the past. If the truth spread to the people who trusted them, there would be fewer places for excuses. Making the plan took away some of the rawness. Each step I took felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself. I didn't want to be cruel. I only wanted them to stop treating me like a safety net they could cut and tie again whenever it suited them. Derek and Ethan stood with me, and that made the choice feel less lonely. The more I looked, the more truth spilled out, and it was uglier than I expected. It wasn't just me they had used. I found out they had borrowed money from my aunt last year, promising to pay it back within a month. They never returned a single dollar. Another cousin had covered part of their car repair bill, and they ignored his calls when he asked about repayment. Piece by piece, it became clear this wasn't an accident or a one-time mistake. It was who they had become, taking from everyone who loved them, never giving anything back. Then came the moment that pushed me from hurt into cold anger. A friend of Ethan's mentioned overhearing my dad at a bar near their neighborhood. He said my father had been laughing, telling a group of men how he had tricked Lily out of her Hawaii trip. My stomach churned when I heard those words. They weren't desperate. They weren't ashamed. They were proud of what they had done to me. Derek helped me collect even more proof. He shared things he had overheard late at night. Conversations where they laughed about refinancing and about how easy it was to guilt me. He even snapped photos of receipts from stores where they had splurged, things they couldn't possibly justify while claiming poverty. Each detail added another brick to the case I was building. While gathering this evidence, I began quietly cutting them off. I had been paying for their phone plan for years without really thinking about it. One afternoon, I removed my card from the account. Then I canceled the insurance policy they had tied to me, one they never thanked me for maintaining. Every little tie I had to their comfort, I severed piece by piece, and I didn't tell them. I wanted them to notice slowly, to feel the absence the way I had felt it when they drained my savings. But I knew this couldn't end with just me pulling away. They would always look for another person to take from. That's when I decided to reveal everything to the extended family. Not in a fit of rage, not in private whispers, but openly and with proof. I wanted the people who still trusted them to see the truth as clearly as I did. They had built their safety net on lies, and I was ready to tear it down in front of everyone. The family reunion was held at my aunt's house, a big gathering that usually brought laughter and noise. This time, though, I arrived with a different purpose. Ethan stayed close by my side, steady and calm, and Derek followed, his expression tight. I could feel my heart pounding as we walked in, but I kept reminding myself why I was there. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. Dinner started like it always did. Plates passed around, chatter filling the air, cousins catching up. My parents acted normal, smiling as if nothing had happened. I waited until everyone had settled, forks clinking against plates, before I cleared my throat. The room went quiet as I stood. "I need to tell you something," I began, my voice firm. My parents shifted uneasily, but I continued. "A few weeks ago, Mom and Dad told me they were about to lose their home. They begged me not to go on my first real vacation, and I gave them $8,600, everything I had saved." I placed a folder on the table and opened it. Inside were the receipts, the screenshots, the messages. One by one, I slid them forward for everyone to see. "This is proof of what really happened," I said. "They didn't use the money for the house. They spent it on parties, new furniture, and luxuries." The air grew heavy. My cousins leaned in, reading the texts. My uncle shook his head, muttering under his breath. My aunt looked at my parents with disbelief. "You used her savings for this?" she asked, her voice sharp. Sandra tried to laugh it off, waving a hand. "Oh, come on. It's just money. Lily always makes more." Victor leaned forward, frowning at me. "Family comes first. We've done so much for you over the years. Don't make a scene." But their words didn't land this time. I kept my eyes on them, steady and cold. "You've manipulated me my whole life. You made me believe I owed you everything. But this time you crossed a line." Voices around the table rose in anger. Relatives turned against them, demanding answers. Some shook their heads in disgust. Others whispered about how they'd been taken advantage of too. My parents looked around desperately, but no one was backing them up. I leaned in slightly, my voice calm but cutting through the noise. "You'll never see another cent from me again." The table went silent for a beat, the weight of my words hanging in the air. My parents stared at me, their faces pale. For the first time, they knew I meant it. After the family reunion, everything changed. My extended family stopped talking to my parents. Calls and messages went unanswered. Even relatives who used to visit them often kept their distance. It was clear they were furious about how Sandra and Victor had treated me, and they didn't want to be part of it. Their friends weren't much better. Word spread quickly, and soon people in their social circle were whispering about the betrayal. They talked behind their backs, shaking their heads in disbelief. I heard from a cousin that neighbors were gossiping about how my parents had taken my savings for parties while pretending to be in trouble. The shame seemed to follow them wherever they went. Meanwhile, my phone blew up with calls and messages. Sandra and Victor begged me to answer, to forgive them, to send money again. I stared at the screen, my hand shaking. For a moment, I thought about responding, but I remembered all the lies, all the manipulation. I blocked their numbers one by one. The relief was immediate. No more guilt, no more pressure, no more pretending everything was okay. Derek, finally free from their constant interference, moved in with Ethan and me. It felt good having him around, safe and supported. He unpacked his things quietly, but I could see the tension lift from his shoulders. For the first time in a long time, he didn't have to worry about being used or blamed. Victor's reputation suffered badly. A side job he had depended on fell through after word got around about his dishonesty. People didn't want to work with someone who lied and took advantage of family. He tried to explain, but no one was willing to listen. Sandra took a different approach. She tried to play the victim, calling old friends and neighbors to say how hurt she was by my actions. She painted herself as the one suffering, hoping for sympathy. But no one bought it. The evidence was too clear, the story too public. People saw through her act immediately, and the pity she sought never came. I watched it all from a distance, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. They had lost their friends, their respect, and even small sources of income because of their choices. But it wasn't revenge I wanted, it was freedom. And now, for the first time, I could breathe. I could live without the constant worry that my parents would take advantage of me or Derek again. The house felt quieter, calmer, and for the first time, I felt like our little family, me, Ethan, and Derek, could finally start fresh without their lies hanging over us. Months later, the day finally came for Ethan and me to take the trip we had dreamed about for years. Derek insisted on chipping in, wanting to show his thanks for everything I had done for him. With his help, we were able to cover the entire vacation comfortably, even more than I had originally saved for. The thought of finally relaxing, knowing I didn't owe anyone anything, made my heart light. We arrived in Hawaii, the sun warm on our skin, the ocean stretching endlessly before us. The first morning, I stepped onto the beach, feeling the soft sand between my toes and listening to the waves crash. Everything that had weighed me down, the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, felt distant, like a shadow fading behind me. I breathed in deeply, and for the first time in months, I felt truly free. As we walked along the shoreline, Ethan kept a steady hand in mine, smiling at the calm on my face. Derek, sitting on a towel nearby, looked peaceful too. It was strange to realize that even though I had lost my parents in a sense, I had gained something far more important: peace, clarity, and control over my own life. I thought about all the plans I had made to expose them, all the steps I had taken to protect Derek and myself. The money was never the real victory. The real revenge had been regaining my freedom. Freedom from their lies, from their guilt-tripping, and from being used. I realized I didn't need to hurt them further to win. Living my life fully, without their manipulation, was enough. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt a smile spread across my face. The ocean reflected the colors, calm and endless, just like the feeling inside me. For the first time in a long while, I was able to let go of anger and just enjoy the moment. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my mother appeared. "We need your help again." I stared at it for a moment, feeling the old tug of guilt rise up. Then I smiled softly, swiped it away, and deleted it. Turning back to the waves, I felt the water lap at my feet and let it wash over me. The weight of their manipulation, the fear, and the worry, it all slipped away. I walked further into the ocean, feeling the cool water around my ankles, and I knew I was free. This was my life now, my choice, and no one could take that away from me. I had my peace, my family by my side, and the future ahead, unburdened and bright. Do you think Lily made the right choice by cutting her parents off completely, or should she have given them another chance? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your opinion. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out.